Hi, I'm Marcel, and welcome to me screaming into the void, mostly about books. This Victober, I read a lot of different books that talked about gender. The Victorian age was a huge time for the suffragette movement, about women's right to vote, about women's rights regarding the rest of society. And there is a lot of not just books written on the female condition, but also a lot of books afterwards talking about these books. This is sort of what we know within literary criticism as feminist theory, how women are gendered into being women and how that experience feels for women. But another part about feminist theory that isn't that much talked about is that in the same way that women are gendered into being women, men are at the same time gendered into being men. Men, as a part of the patriarchal society, is still taught what that means the same way women are taught what that means. And in the Victorian time, you also did have some brilliant examples of feminist work, to use the term, about how men are gendered into being men. And the two I want to recommend that I've now just read is Hearts of Darkness by Joseph Conrad and Dombey and Son by Charles Dickens. So very shortly, what these two books are about. Heart of Darkness is about a man who travels to an African country. It just talks about the River Congo. So I don't really know if it is Congo or if it's just an African country, but it's about a man who is traveling along a river and searching for a specific man that he is having to get back to Great Britain. And Dombey and Son is about the relationship between Dombey and his daughter, who he is upset with because she's a girl. Now, what both of these books then do is that they talk about two very masculine aspects of the Victorian era. Joseph Conrad is talking about the imperialism, about British men traveling to other countries because that's what men did. They were explorers. They went out and they took the land because they were the superior and therefore had the right to do that. And it was good that good British men did that. Please pick up, on the one hand, pick up the sarcasm of what I mean, but because Joseph Conrad is critical, the same way with Charles Dickens. They are very critical to this idea, but it is still a very prevalent idea at that time. And at the same time, Charles Dickens is pointing to the businessman. Dombey in Dombey and Son is very rich. He's successful within this new industrial era, climbing the ladder within this new class system that isn't based so much on who you're born. It was absolutely based on who you were born, but you were moving now from a more feudal way of understanding the class system to now a more capitalistic way of understanding the class system and the middle class especially. So Dombey is a representation of this new upper middle class, and he managed to do that all on his own. So, in the eyes of Victorian culture, both of the main characters in these two books are doing the right thing and is successful with doing the right thing. So they are, in a sense, supposed to be winners if you're looking at the Victorian discourse of what men are supposed to do. And they're miserable. That's what the books are about. I mean, the main character in Out of Darkness, I'm just going to quickly check what's the name of that character. Yeah, I'm not going to spend that much time doing it, but I is absolutely a good representation of the explorer, of the people who travel and work in Africa to gather knowledge and gather the resources. But when he is sort of on the hunt for this voice of Africa that it is mentioned, which is discourse analysis before discourse analysis, he is so disappointed with what he finds because it's not what he has been promised. So he feels almost, so the book is all about how do you deal with that aspect of it. How do you deal with, but you promised me that if I did A, then B would happen. But what happens then when we get B? And the same thing again with Dombey and Son. So in the same way that the voice of Africa is a clear theme within Heart of Darkness, Dombey and Son is very much focused on the name. You have to honor the name. I hope you are worthy of the name Dombey. And that, of course, sort of points to the fact, why is he so disappointed with this daughter? Well, because his daughter won't inherit his name. When she marries, she will get a new name. So she will never be able, by society standards, to be a Dombey. That's not her place in society. But his daughter is also so kind and sweet, almost too kind. I mean, Charles Dickens does have a tendency to sort of make characters too sweet for this oh cruel world. I did like her. I find some of his other characters that go way off, but Dombey's daughter just wants to love him, and Dombey, because she can't inherit his name, because he's so fixated on having someone inherit his name, becomes miserable because he then turns his back on this incredibly loving creature who doesn't want anything from him except being allowed to love him. So both of these books talk about the masculine experience by asking the question, yes, you are the group in power, especially Dombey and Son, but are you happy? And that is such a brilliant question, because they are the dominant power. I mean, the books about women in Victoria time, how women are gendered into being women, are a lot about how they are unhappy with that process. But because men in Victorian time were the people in power, asking them if they were happy with being gendered into a position of power, isn't that sort of common? We don't really think that is the questions that we want to ask. But Charles Dickens and Joseph Conrad absolutely asks them. And I think especially with Dombey and Son, is his name worth what he is worth giving up? Is being as powerful as he is worth it if it just makes him miserable? I just needed to talk about these two books and about the fact that they are so about this sort of how men being gendered into being men in a time when, of course, because that means I'm in the person of power, was such a brilliant things, and I wasn't really aware that was what the books were about. Have you read any of them, or have you read anything similar to that? What do you think about how men are being gendered into being men? Please let me know in the comments down below, and thank you for listening to me screaming into the void.